On today's Apple Daily, it is an AfterBurner special because I have very little voice left and there's bugger all news from the weekend. I'm Dave and I simplify Apple so that everything just works for you, and if you want the latest Apple news, leaks and rumours every weekday at 12 UTC, like this video, subscribe to the channel and ring my bell. Formalities out of the way, let's get straight into your questions. First off, Josh asks, AfterBurners, what was your first Apple device? So I was a little bit of a late bloomer in terms of when I actually started using Apple stuff. My first Apple device was actually an iPhone. It was the iPhone 4. But since then, I picked up a MacBook Air, the 11-inch model in 2011, which I absolutely loved. Used that for years and years and years. My wife was using it up until the M1s arrived this year. Obviously, I've then kind of backfilled my collection with a lot of G3 stuff, G4s, G5s, early Apple stuff that I'm really interested in. So yeah, it was kind of the first thing that made me go, oh yeah, this is actually different and not just more expensive. AlexT asks, AfterBurners, do you think that Apple might bring Ethernet port back to the MacBook Pro? I do need to have it for troubleshooting or to configure it without taking a dongle. Now, first of all, I don't know why there is so much dongle hate. Like, the physical chassis of the MacBook Pro is too thin to be able to have an Ethernet port on it natively, so it's not going to be coming back directly onto the body itself. That's just not going to happen. I don't see quite the level of inconvenience that people find of owning a dongle, especially when you're going to be using the same device in the same place a lot of times. So if you, for example, use a MacBook Pro at work and you need to be able to plug it in, then having that dongle just attached to the end of your Ethernet cable, you know, is it really that different from using just a USB-C cable? I don't think it is. Yet everyone in the world hates it, so maybe I'm just in the minority. Let me know down in the comments. But no, I don't think it's going to be coming back onto the MacBook Pro itself. The only option that might happen is they might do what they've done with the iMacs and put it into the power brick. So it passes through the MagSafe connector. That's a possibility. I wouldn't hold my breath for it though, because the whole point of Ethernet really is for stationary wired computers, and the MacBook Pro is not a stationary wired computer. If you do need to use it with Ethernet, I think a dongle is a pretty reasonable compromise for that. Lars Andersen asks, AfterBurners, about multiple M-series SoCs linked together for future Mac Pros. I've been thinking the same for a long time, but on the forum called Quora, but the users there continue to tell me that the performance loss will be too big for it to happen. But I'm happy that we agree on the idea. And I still think that will happen, and I think that there will be a space for at least one AfterBurner card in it. Now, I agree, and the thing is, everyone's talking about this as if it's kind of taking existing chips and finding a way to kind of mush them together. But remember, Apple is building this from the ground up. So the M1X chips, for example, could well be designed specifically in the first place to allow this to happen. There's no reason that Apple couldn't have multiple SoCs that work together. The issue that everyone has always talked about is like timing issues and things like that, and trying to keep the cores in sync. But there's no reason that it would be that much more difficult than keeping multiple cores in sync within a single chip. I wouldn't have thought, although I'm not a systems architect and probably am wrong about this. In terms of the AfterBurner card, I've got a feeling that these won't need it. I feel like the AfterBurner card is probably basically Apple Silicon with dedicated hardware encoders and things like that built into it. Because I know it can be kind of repurposed for different tasks, but it seems like that's the kind of thing that the AfterBurner does, is just be very good at specific tasks, and it makes sense that those specific tasks could well be built into the SoCs themselves if you're building something like this. Now, what I would be really interested in is if you could buy a 2 SoC version of the Mac Pro and then add another 2 SoCs later on. Maybe those cards will come as their own thing. I'm not sure, but yeah, that's the way that I think it's going to go down, and I think there's going to be a lot of people eating their words when this comes out with multiple SoCs. And as I say, I've been talking about it since, I think, November. I still need to go through and find out when I first mentioned it. Marcin Kowalczyk asks, AfterBurners, do you think that the Apple Watch will make it in time for the Apple event, or should we expect movie editing magic on the 14th? So here's how I think it's going to go down, and bear in mind, guys, we should be expecting to have some invites for the event tomorrow, hopefully. If it's going to be the 14th, that's when we should be seeing them, so that's very exciting times. But here's how I think it's going to go down. I think the Apple Watch will be in the presentation as usual, and then I think when it comes to the point where they would say, and it will be shipping from such and such a date, we might have a full screen graphic that tells us the date and a voiceover, because it's a lot easier to reproduce a voiceover and cut that in behind the scenes than it is to go out and reshoot the actual dates being revealed wherever they might have been doing that, whether that's in Apple's gyms or whether it was in the middle of Apple Park or somewhere else. So expect to see it kind of, if it looks like a delayed launch date, expect to see kind of a voiceover with a graphic on screen telling you the dates. That would be my big tell if they've had to adjust things. Of course, they might just launch it on the original day and just have very limited stocks for the first couple of weeks. Tim Kinetics asks, iCave answers, rumours are suggesting there will be no performance difference between the 14-inch and 16-inch MacBook Pros. Apple have recently been giving more premium features to larger devices, such as the improved camera on the iPhone 13 Pro Max and the mini LED display on the 12.9-inch iPad Pro. With the reported $500 premium, it doesn't make sense for the different size MacBook Pro models to be so similar. Is it possible that only the 16-inch MacBook Pro will get the mini LED? Do you think that Apple will differentiate them in any other ways apart from the larger screen and larger batteries? Now bear in mind, these are only assumed prices. We're assuming that they will come in at $17.99 and $23.99. Apple can adjust their pricing if that's what they want to do. But my gut feeling is that the 14-inch will start with a 16-core GPU, and the 32-core GPU is the starting configuration for the 16-inch. That doesn't mean they've got different chips. They've still got the M1X, they've still got those options, and the 14-inch may have an upgrade option to get the 32-core. That might be the way they differentiate it if they're going to stick with the current pricing scheme and things like that. So there's no reason to expect that it's going to be exactly the same. It could be that the 16-inch comes with a higher starting storage option, or it might just be those differences. I don't see the mini LED only coming to the larger model, though. The main reason that happened with the iPads was purely supply constraints. There weren't enough mini LED displays to go around, so that's what they did. Team Kinetics asks, I drink answers, spiced rum recommendations, please. I found Dead Man's Fingers has more vanilla notes than I like. Kraken's the current favourite. Any other suggestions? So I can't answer this in an unbiased way because I work for a spiced rum brand which is called Old J, and it is very vanilla-y, so you probably wouldn't be super excited about the original, but do try the Old J Dark. It's still got the vanilla to it, but it has also got loads of the Christmas spices, so cardamom, cinnamon, clove. You can buy it online. Old J Dark. And Randomness R asks, iCave answers, any update on the 18 to 20-inch MacBook Pro? Nope, because it's probably not a thing that's going to ever happen. As we were discussing in the previous video, there's been discussions of it. People have said, oh, maybe they're testing it. They could be testing one, but there's no real reason for it other than it's got a big screen. It would be very difficult to move around. It would be quite awkward to use. Yes, it would have the big display, but there are quite a lot of mobile displays that you could take with you with a regular size MacBook Pro at this point. You're not going to get more power in it than you're going to get in a 16-inch, and you're also not even going to be able to put a bigger battery into it because the battery that you get for the 16-inch is as big as you're allowed to take on an aircraft anyway at this point, assuming they use the same size as they used on the Intel ones, which is 100 watt hours. Anything above that is too large to actually fly with, so the point of a high-powered laptop is being able to take it with you and do work where you are. So there's very little point in doing that, so I don't think it's ever going to happen. Okay guys, shorter show today, as I say. Should be looking forward to big announcements tomorrow. Should be getting our invites to the September 14th event, assuming it's on the September the 14th. It better be at this point. And also, there's some big stuff apparently happening today from John Prosser, so keep your eyes peeled for that over on the Front Page Tech channel. It's going to be exciting times. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.